Well, good morning. This morning, I wanted to make a video and talk a little bit about our memories. There's some things here that I kind of knew, but I had watched a video the other day that really helped bring the scientific explanation to it. And I'm not going to get too deep into that scientific explanation in this, but just a to bring an understanding of how we can renew our minds, and that's a huge thing here. I've often quoted Romans 12:2 as the main verse that explains to renew our mind. I'm just going to look that on. I didn't prep that up ahead of time, but let me look on my Bible app here, Romans 12:2, and get that up here for you. That's how you know that this is real and raw. I've not fully prepared everything. Um, Romans chapter 12, verses 2. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good and acceptable and perfect will to God. The heading on that verse 1 and verse 2, is a living sacrifice. You've got to be willing to sacrifice what it is that you think you know and reconcile it with truth, bring it to God, allow Him to renew it from your thinking to His, instead of bringing your thinking and trying to get His word to justify it, as we commonly do. And to me, what that means is always being open-minded, always being willing to be wrong. The humility is, you can be sure that you're right. Everything in your experience and your learning and the things that you've been taught, you could be on the right track, absolutely. But always be willing to question it. Always be willing to go, have I given that the right meaning or the right definition? And there are things that I think, I was sure that that was the right answer, that what I knew was truth. And only afterwards, being open to get a new definition or meaning, did I get to see that in a fuller light. Not necessarily that I was completely wrong, but there was wrong thinking in it. And so as I read this verse, and I want to talk about our memories for a moment, because this is important. Our life is built off of our memories. Our memories from growing up have shaped our lives, our upbringings with our parents, our family, things you went through as a teenager, through your adult life, as you've had children. They build this memory bank of memories, and they're then stored in our subconscious of our brain. Now, what this comes down to is an understanding. And again, there's scientific stuff I'm not going to get into here. I didn't come here to give you all the scientific evidence for this. But the reality is that the thoughts, the decisions, the choices that we are making today are not made because of the situation that's happening today. That all of the thoughts, all of the choices that we're making, the decisions that we're doing, are based on our history of experience that is shaping that. And so to me, that's really important to understand. The choices you are making today are not based solely on the information from that situation that's happening right now around you. It is a series of choices adding up. It is from memories that shape us, that make our decisions. And so once you understand that, if you want to change your decisions, if you want to, instead of sitting in that sin that you keep repeating, if you keep making poor decisions, you have to know that you have to go backwards to previous decisions, and you have to break that cycle. You have to change the definition or meanings of those memories, of those choices you've made in the past, in order to influence the current. And so that's what goes down to this scientific explanation on how our memories work. And here's the easiest way that I'm going to explain it. Think of your memories as a Google Doc, right? You go into your Google Drive and you've got all your documents in there. And you know how you can share a Google Doc with someone and you can put it in either view mode or edit mode and share it with them, right? And that limitation's on them. They can only see it as you've presented if you kept it in view mode only and not edit mode. But the reality is, you're the owner of the memory. It is your memory in your brain. And therefore, whenever you open it, it's actually always in edit mode. And that's something many people don't realize. They think a memory is a memory. The thing happened, the feelings that I thought or that I had, the things I think about it, it's a memory and it's concrete, it's set in stone, and that is all it is. And that has shaped your life. People who say, I'm too old to change. I've been this way most of my life. They wrongly believe that their memories are not editable and they're stuck in the past. They're stuck in the past that's creating their behavior for the future. Okay? And so knowing that this is in edit mode, every time you recall a memory, you have the ability to edit it. And this is the thing, because it's editable, when the memory comes and the memory goes, your brain does something. It saves the memory. And so, again, understanding that, if you had a memory from when you were 10 years old, 11 years old, every time that you have remembered that, you are not remembering that memory as if it was when you were 10 years old. You are only remembering that memory from the last time you remembered it. So if that was a memory that you remembered last month and you're remembering it again, you are only remembering how it was saved a month ago. That's really important. Again, it's in edit mode. You get to edit it. By that, you can't take the memory away, but you can change the definition. You can change the experience. You can change the meaning of the memory. And that's how you can change your mind. Okay? And that's why we see these verses to renew our minds to God. Do not be conformed by this world. So the memory of what you had happen to you is a memory of what's happened to you in this world. And the definition that you've given it from a scared 10-year-old boy is far different than a mature 50-year-old man, right? You can change what that means and what that meant. But if you are refusing to do that, if you are holding on to that memory as if you were 10 years old without any of the experience that you have today, you are being conformed by the world. The world is conforming you to think a certain way. But be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good and acceptable and perfect will of God. So you can take that bad memory, and because of what you learn from the Word of God, that He is in control. He is here to give you comfort. He is there in those difficult times. And you keep your mind on the things that He wants you to be. You can add that to your memory to shift what it means to have experienced that. And it can change your behavior today. Some other verses, Philippians 4:8, it focuses thoughts on what is true, noble, and pure. Again, you got a memory of a bad experience. Something's happened to you. What happens when you focus and you give it definitions about things that are true, noble, and pure versus the evil or the sin that was done to you? Right? Ephesians 4:22-24 encourages putting off the old self and renewing the attitude of the mind. Right? Sometimes when bad things happen to us, we can hold on to those. We can be into resistance, resentment. We can become revengeful. We can become extremely bitter because of those experiences. And this is telling us that's an old self. The new self is not supposed to be revengeful, is not supposed to be hold on to resentment. Renewing it with the attitude of your mind. Romans 8:6 highlights that a mind is governed by the Spirit and it leads to life and peace. Again, we can see this over and over. People who are victims, true victims, and we're not talking about victim mindset here, true victims. You've suffered something that was completely unjust, that was wrong to you, and it's horrible. I'm not making light of any of that. That is a horrible thing. Things happen to us. And those who hold on to that become bitter. The victim can easily be transformed into the villain. And we see this in historical abuse in families, right? As the father of a house is abusive, his son grows up and he can easily become an abusive father in his own family because it's all he knew. That's what he grew up with. He didn't renew his mind into something new, into who he was. Colossians 3:2 directs our focus towards heavenly rather than earthly things. So a part of that renewing of our mind is, again, looking at our Heavenly Father, looking at the things of heaven that are perfect, that are holy, that are just, that are all those things that we have, renewing our mind to that. And so again, as we take those memories, and we can recall them on our own, or sometimes they just come to us. We can sit down and change what that means. Change how that defines us. And then save it. And so I'm going to share just a little bit of a personal story of how that's happened in my life. When I was about the ages of around 9 to 13-ish, I had a father figure come into our house, and it was probably the closest thing that I understood as a father. And he was, by all stretch, mostly one of the best father figures a boy could ask for. Someone who spent time with you, someone who shared interests with you, someone who spoke into your life in many ways that were good. But there was one small problem. he had an addiction to alcohol, and he would come home and he would be completely drunk, and he'd be a very violent drunk. And I won't go much more into that. But what happened as a result of that is that actually my memories were blocked. Little bit, 13, 14 years old, I think it was. Again, I don't remember exactly. I remember going through some counseling, I guess because, and I don't remember fully, but I was becoming a very angry child, a child who had a lot of anger. And in trying to go through that, I remember the counselor asking me about my life, my childhood, going through things. And the astonishing thing that I recalled at that young age is that I didn't have a lot of memories. I didn't have a lot of memories of my childhood. In fact, I have a younger sister whom I still don't have a lot of memories with. I mean, I knew she was my sister, but I didn't have memories with her. And so anyways, at that age, what do? Counseling ended. We ran out of funding, didn't go anywhere. You don't think much of it. And as I went through my teenage years, it was just something I just didn't deal with. I was just like, I just don't have childhood memories. I mean, it's weird, but I don't. And then when I started hitting about 20, 21 years old, something interesting happened. And I started having snippets of memories come back, good memories. I actually had a memory with my sister, and I went, where did that come from? Because I don't have those. And so they started coming back, and then with it came bad memories. And I was getting really confused. I was like, what are these memories? Like, is this real? Did this actually happen? And then I had to ask my mom about those memories. And yeah, sure enough, they are real memories. And so again, now you're 20, 21-year-old man. These memories are happening. Some of them are pretty ugly. What do you do with that? Well, as most young men, you're told to just move on, get on with life. Just bury it deep. Don't worry about what you're feeling and just get on with life. And that's what I did. And again, I didn't think much of it. I'm not here explaining to you a victim story. Oh, poor me. I'm just telling you that there wasn't much there that I could think of that affected my life. I had moved on. And then I went to a little workshop called Personal Mastery. And I'm going through this, and there's a part of it, I won't get into too much detail, but I got to, the question came up. If you grew up with an alcoholic parent figure, what did you make that mean? And right away, I just said, people can become monsters. And as I thought deeper on that, it's not just people can become monsters. The people you love the most can become monsters. The people that you are most vulnerable with can become monsters. The people that you put your trust into can become horrific monsters that take advantage of that. That was the meaning that I gave that memory. And then I got to look at my life. And I asked myself, how is it that Other people I know have lifelong friends. How is it that people can feel so connected to each other and I don't? Why is it that I feel like an outsider in most situations? I mean, there's a lot more experience of my childhood that adds to that. And sometimes I would get really frustrated and go, I just don't get it. Like I desire to have close relationships with people, and yet I don't. And I can sit around and I can point my finger at everyone else and say, man, look, they're the problem. They became a monster. See? That thought that I had about people is absolutely correct. People can become monsters. And I would go through life losing friends because they can become monsters. And that's true to a certain extent. But if you're living life in a protection mode because everyone can become monsters, guess what? You never get close to people. You never connect with people because you're always putting on a shell. You always have a shield held up. You always have a mask on. You're protecting yourself from pain that you've not yet felt. You are creating a self-fulfilling prophecy based off of a memory that you had and a meaning that you gave it. And so if I want that to change, if I want to better connect with people, if I want to build closer relationships, I need to pull the mask off. I need to put the shield down. I need to drop the barriers. I need to become more vulnerable. And yes, I believe in the last couple of years after going through that, I have become a lot better at that. And I still have a lot of work to do. Because yes, old dogs can learn new tricks. When you have a thinking pattern that's been for 30 years of your life, it may seem impossible to change. It's easy to say that's just how I am, and that's a complete lie. You can change, but it means one thing: dying to self, surrendering it to God, allowing Him to renew your mind, to give those things new definitions. And so while that scenario allowed me to, that scenario, I gave it the definition, people can become monsters. I got to change the definition. I got to look back, and even if it's theoretical, I got to look back onto this man's childhood, and with complete mystery, not actually knowing whatever happened, I get to hold to one biblical truth about that man. He was made in the image of God. He was brought into this world. God knit him in his mother's womb. He was built with a purpose and potential from God, and the only thing that robbed him of that was sin. The sin that was done to him as a child, as he grew up, as he went into early adulthood, or whatever it is. I don't know. And hear me clearly. None of this is a justification for the things that he did. None of this is excusing the sin that was done to me and my family. And none of this is saying that he is or was a safe person to be around. Forgiveness and reconciliation are two different things. But what it allowed me to do is to see the person that God wanted him to be. And it was only the sin done to him that defined who he was, the definitions he gave all that. And the only tools, equipment, knowledge that he had understood how to deal with that was alcohol. Now, I thank God that that's not my thinking. I thank God that mine is to take my mind and renew it to his, to God, to question all the experiences that I've been through, the definitions that I've given them, and to know that each and every single one of them are editable. I get to change what that means. Just realizing now as I've been saying this, I should be looking at the camera so you can see my eyes, but that's all right. As I said, this is raw. But this is a huge thing. I think it's huge because I'll tell you what. If you're watching this video, feel free to share this to someone who might need to see it. Feel free to give it to them encouragingly, not out of condemnation, but out of conviction. It doesn't matter how old you are. God can change you. But you got to be willing to sacrifice the definitions that you've given your life to him, so that through his word, he can help you give them new definitions. And so, what's the definition that I've given this experience that I've had through my knowledge? People can still be monsters. And it's worth the risk. People can disappoint you. People can hurt you emotionally, physically. And sin is going to be done against us, whether we like it or not. But it's still worth it. And through that experience, through the personal mastery work that I went through, allowed me to change the definition on that, which was incredibly powerful. And so that means to me that there is an incredible hope for our world. When we see what's going on, when we see the division that's going on, when we see the hatred and not understanding of each other, we are. It's like, on one hand, I say it's like we're living in the world of Babylon. We're all speaking English, but few people are willing to understand, because it's far more important to be right than it is to connect. I'm being sarcastic there. There's an incredible hope because our minds can be renewed. Our hearts can be softened. And if we're only willing to come into understanding, which means willing to change the definitions of the things that we think we understand, there's hope in this world. God can have impact, and he wants us to be it. He wants us to be renewed. He wants us to be transformed. He wants us in submission to him of ourself, die to self. I forget the verse just came to my mind. I must decrease so he must increase. Be willing to decrease the definitions that you've given everything in life for his definitions. what he means for it. Not that he wants sin to happen, not that he makes things happen, but we do with our sin. And he wants us to renew that. So that means anyone is perfectly capable of change if they just are willing to go back and edit the definitions of what they gave. And again, that video to me was a very powerful scientific. It's an actual way that our brain operates. It was so great to see. And perhaps if you're interested, I can post the link to it. But it's not a Christian that it's coming from. But I could see the scientific explanation and tie it to what I know biblically, what is accurate. And I can say, wow, we still not even begun to think about how God operates and how he has created us. Remember, we can only understand relative truth while seeking absolute truth. We always want to be seeking absolute truth, knowing that we can only understand relative truth. And that's a much deeper conversation to get into. So I don't know who's watched this, who's getting what out of it, but I do appreciate your time. I hope that this is something that encourages someone. And like everything that I have learned to really do in the last few years of my life, it doesn't matter how many people this impacts. God could mean it for just one. And I think that that's one way that the modern church has really lost their way. Yes, we want impact. Yes, we love it when we can celebrate multiple baptisms, when multiple people get saved. We want that, and God can do that. And sometimes it's for the one. Sometimes it's just the right person who hears it and goes, wow, no one's ever said it that way before. And it makes sense to me. And the other 99, it's lost on. It's pretty incredible to me how God can work that way. So, again, I hope whoever is reading this has a fantastic day. I hope that this has something for you. And please share it if someone needs it. Comment. It's always nice to know if this does impact someone. It's just good to know. It's like, oh, hey, there's the one. That's the one that God had this for. Yeah. So with that, have a fantastic day.